After many years in the IT industry, I've learned that metrics and measurement is a topic that never goes away. The reason being is because it is so important, and yet so few of us actually do it. And those that do will often not have a strategic approach as to what they're measuring and how they will use it. I think this is probably a good point to just bring up a quick opinion poll to just identify, are you capturing metrics today? Just to get a feel, what's closest for you? Is it yes, strategically, yes, but not well defined, or no, not at all? But it is often a view that measuring performance is not a direct contributor to the delivery of value, which may be true, but how else can we measure that value? What is more, we're prepared to allow for other wasteful actions to take up far more resource and time than taking measurements, which actually impede our value delivery capabilities. Do we have the results from that poll? It'd be just interesting to see how many people out there. It's just going to be interesting to see how many of you believe that you are, but it's not well defined. 52%. So that's just over half. Yes, but not well defined. So it's interesting that there is work going on metrics, but are we actually reading it? Are we actually seeing what needs to be correctly measured? Well, before I go any further, let's give you an introduction into myself. I am Stephen Walters, Field CTO for GitLab in EMEA. And at GitLab, we are researching the use of value stream management as a way for enterprises to become more adaptable, more agile, and better capable at delivering business value in an ever-changing world. I'm also a DevOps Institute ambassador and an influencer in the Value Stream Management Consortium. So let's begin with the first question that we should ever be asking. Why? Why inspect value streams? Why is it important for us to inspect value streams? But probably just as important, why is not inspecting our value streams such a bad thing for our business and ourselves? Well, to set the context, we believe that in a world where software defines the speed of innovation, you have to be great at developing, securing, and deploying software. Companies must be expert at all three, or they will be disrupted by those who are. And in our current economic climate, they need to undergo these digital transformations while also cutting costs, being more efficient, and doing more with less. So clearly, they face challenges as they undergo digital and business transformation. Customers are trying to make a big transition. They are going from project-driven, ticket-based development to product-driven, value-based delivery. We see these challenges emerging as a result of changes in people, process, and technology. Product teams and developer teams are trying to accelerate the time to market so that they can quickly show customer value. At the same time, product teams face too many handoffs, broken feedback loops, and limited visibility. Meanwhile, developers have more responsibilities as companies embrace a shift-left development culture. And finally, we see the emergence of platform teams who are tasked with scaling self-service tools for developers while implementing effective security and cost-cutting safeguards, all of which is challenging with today's hybrid work styles and disconnected tool chains. So what are organizations trying to accomplish? Over the past year, we've conducted over 10 executive roundtables and spoken to countless customers from around the world and taken input from organizations such as the DevOps Institute and the Value Stream Management Consortium. And from all of these conversations, we hear a set of common themes. They want to improve developer experience so that they can recruit and retain tech talent and make developers more productive so they ship better software faster. They want to be able to better measure impact across the software delivery lifecycle so they can improve operational efficiency. Today, there is a disconnect between individual contributors and executives, as it is often difficult to link tactical accomplishments to executive strategy. They want to secure the software supply chain so that they can reduce risk, security and compliance risk. They want to secure their cloud migration with the right controls in place to minimize risk. But in order to get better, faster, accelerate, efficient, and reducing risk, we need to measure, which means inspecting our value streams. This means using the 3 pillars of empiricism: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. This is why we inspect our value streams, and not to do so means we cannot possibly achieve those things. So, let's look at where we should be more transparent and the kinds of inspection we could perform. There are 2 types of metrics in value stream management: flow and realization. Now, the metrics that you see in this table are the typical flow metrics that you would expect to see in most mature enterprises. Flow metrics define how we deliver. These are the key measure for our performance in delivering from ideation through to realization. The first 4 shown are DORA metrics, which I hope many of you already know. For those who don't, they are easy enough to find, but I would recommend the Accelerate State of DevOps report from Google. These are typically measures of speed, the first pairing, or measures of quality, the second pairing. Deployment frequency is a measure of how often value is delivered to production on a daily basis, or in other words, is value that can be consumed by the customer. The lead time for change is the time it takes from when a change is committed into production successfully being stressed. This is a reflection of the efficiency of the CI/CD pipeline, but is also a reflection of the efficiency to translate the demand or requirements into an actual usable product. Time to restore service is the time it takes to recover from a failure in production. Often this is measured against an SLA or an SLI, or targeted against an SLO. But it can also be useful to measure this indicator against the time it takes for a user or consumer of a service to identify or be impacted by a failure in production. Ideally, you want your time to recover to be less than the time it takes for an impact to a customer. Finally, change failure rate is a measure of the quality of deployments to production. Ideally, any change to production should cause no issue at all, and a 0% figure should be the target. Further flow measures are also shown, which are also measures of speed, quality, and quantity. Lead time, how quickly can issues be resolved? Cycle time, the actual time it takes from when work is first recorded to work actually no longer being required. You have closed the incident or the issue. Note that both are median times to remove the impact of extreme issues at either end of the scale. New issues, simply the new number that are created. Now, this is useful to look at in relation to the cycle time. So, for example, high issues with low cycle time would suggest a lot of small, niggly problems. However, high issues with high cycle time, and you have a real issue with system uptime. Also useful to then look at it in relation to the time to recover previously mentioned. Now, deploys, that's the total number of deployments to production. On its own, not necessarily an indicator of value, but when you look at this in relation to the earlier flow metrics, it can help to show signs of issues around quality assurance. Now, all of these can be measured at any time, but only certain measures may be of importance at any one time, depending on the issues in your organization, be they speed or quality. Dr. Elihu Goldratt postulated this as the theory of constraints. There may be many constraints in a value stream, but identifying that one bottleneck is key. Improving before the constraint will merely speed up the rate of work to the constraint point, causing a greater bottleneck. Improving after the constraint will show no improvement at all. But constraints are not just about speed, they're also about quality. So using these measures wisely and in combination with each other is important to identify the true problems that exist in value stream delivery. Now, this table shows value realization metrics, and these are measures of what you have delivered. The ones shown here are the top 8 measures as identified by the Value Stream Management Consortium from the State of Value Stream Management Report 2022. Some of these are not surprising, such as revenue and sales and profit margin. But not all measures are based on currency, such as Net Promoter Score and customer journey time. What is interesting is that all of the top 4 are lagging metrics, meaning they are measures of how we have performed in the past up to that present moment. Leading metrics, however, are a better indicator of future performance. For example, reviews are more likely to provide an indication of future pipeline. Poor reviews, and we won't get many visits from our target prospects. Great reviews, and we rise to the top of the search list. So I'm going to ask another quick question here. Are these metrics that are useful to your organization? So just want to understand here, are these things that, yes, they are things that are useful and you do measure to date. So I'd expect those of you who replied yes beforehand, many of you should be responding to the first answer there. The second one, yes, but we don't measure. So here's an indicator. These are the kinds of things that maybe you're looking for some way to provide measurements on those. No, and we don't measure. So at that point, you've got to start to ask yourself, what are you measuring? Why are you measuring? Why do you need to measure? What are the potential issues on there? How are we coming along with those responses? So I think that's pretty emphatic there, which is what we're seeing, what is being reflected in the industry that we see today. And you've seen how metrics are important, how measurements are important, and how this works, for example, with online stores. And actually, the use of online stores and online store metrics, think about reviews, for example, and how you review your response to using an application or something that you've bought through an online store. And that provides us with an interesting perspective on measurement. So when is the best time to inspect your value streams? And how can we do that? Now, for online stores and app downloads, this is something that is always there. But when is the best time for our value streams? This is the Value Stream Management Implementation Roadmap, as presented by the Value Stream Management Consortium, initially produced in 2021 and refined in 2022. So this is a great place to start that discussion. You will note that at the start of the roadmap is the definition of the vision. This is an important first step for inspections, as it frames the parameters for inspection. So, for example, if the vision of the organization is to be the first to market with new products, then speed of delivery is an important factor. However, if customer satisfaction and service reliability are the most important elements, then quality metrics will be top of the list. It is key that the vision or the value statement that's made during the vision is driven by the business outcomes that you are targeting, what it is that you are trying to achieve. Now, there's an important part in the implementation roadmap, and that is in the order of 3 key elements. Identify and organize is about the people. Mapping is about mapping the people to the process. And connect the technology is about connecting that technology, using that mapping, and connecting the people to that technology so that they're capable to use it. The people part in the identify and organize should be shown in a value stream reference architecture. A value stream assessment then helps to map those people and teams into a workflow that is designed around the developer and user experience. And then finally, enabling that developer experience with the DevOps toolchain connected through a DevSecOps platform. Each of these three key elements requires inspection and metrics of our value streams. So we'll look at each in turn, but before we do, let's clarify those terms of a platform and platform engineering. Now, providing a platform approach that brings together the entire software development lifecycle into a single application, a platform approach enables a value stream driven mindset, a mindset that shortens the time from idea to customer value and establishes a powerful flywheel for data collection and aggregation. The benefit of a value stream platform approach is visibility across personas and projects, so you can measure improvement and cycle times. And a platform approach unifies the entire experience so that companies can be faster than their competition in moving from idea to customer value. Gartner has a study called Market Guide for DevOps Value Stream Delivery Platforms, which highlights that value stream delivery platforms provide fully integrated capabilities that enable continuous delivery of software. These capabilities may include planning, version control, continuous integration, test automation, release orchestration, continuous deployment and rollback, monitoring, security testing, and analyzing value stream metrics. Value stream delivery platforms integrate with infrastructure and compliance automation tools to automate infrastructure deployment and policy enforcement. So now let's go back to the three things that I mentioned earlier: the value stream reference architecture, the one DevSecOps platform, and how they relate to inspecting value streams and a platform approach. Firstly, this is an example of a value stream reference architecture. Taking into account the findings of the Value Stream Management Consortium State of Value Stream Management Report 2022 that I mentioned earlier, but also team topologies, which has been mentioned previously. Now, there is a lot to unpack here, but I will capture the key highlights in the scope of this discussion. It's all about customer experience. There's a new role of the Chief Value Officer appearing, and this is a development of the CFO. But now, rather than just being responsible for financial information, this is value creation accounting. The value is not just to the shareholder, but to the customer, the global economy, and social and governance aspects. Just in these last few weeks, I've been discussing with organizations or heard talks from organizations where amongst their key values that they're trying to measure is around sustainability, and it's around cybersecurity. The key metrics for this are the realization metrics that we mentioned earlier. Secondly, flow metrics. These apply to all parts of the organization, but most importantly to our streamlined teams that are responsible for the delivery of value from ideation through to realization. In order for these teams to continue to deliver without disruption, it is important to have enabling teams that can continuously inspect and provide adaptation of the flow of value, part of our 3 pillars of empiricism we mentioned earlier. And then thirdly, To allow that flow of value and provide the necessary transparency, platform teams should be there to act as a shared service for the streamlined teams. For example, we may have a database team, but this should not be database development. That happens in a streamlined team. The platform team should provide as-a-service interactions in an administrative function, providing service support and continuous capability. But another primary example of the administration of a platform team would be for value stream delivery and value stream management platforms, also termed platform engineering. This is the platform that provides the capability for streamlined teams to deliver in a fast, efficient, secure, and qualitative manner, but without the distractions of maintenance and development of those tools. This should be the platform team for SCM, CI/CD, agile planning, security and compliance, GitOps, automated software delivery, software supply chain security, and value stream management. The purpose of the team: to provide service support for the streamlined teams, and by providing this one platform approach, we can be both holistic and detailed in the views of the performance of our value streams. In defining a reference architecture such as this, we are clearly defining who is responsible for, one, the delivery of value, that being the SA team, who are the consumers of flow metrics. Two, the transparency of value, the platform that is the creator of flow metrics. And three, the inspection and adaptation of value, the enabling team, who are the innovators of flow metrics, providing continuous improvement. This means that we can more clearly define who does what and why in our value streams, the views across personas and groups, preparing us for continuous improvement and setting us up for our next step, the value stream assessment. Now, we're currently doing further research on the value stream reference architecture to help in defining more efficient architecture and team interactions, taking into account things like Conway's Law. So let's look at that second element next, the next thing, which is the value stream assessment. Now, this is GitLab's example of one, and it is a key point where metrics and inspection are used. This is a program where an organization will work with you and your team to assess your current and desired future state as it relates to your technology value stream. That is the amount of time and resources it takes to move from idea and requirements to deployment and customer value. Facilitators would work with you to establish a baseline, to measure software delivery performance progress, and identify the touch points in the process that do not add value to the customer or your business. At GitLab, we have found that value stream assessment, the engagement itself, sets our customers up for success. But to understand if something is a success, well, then it must be inspected and measured. Using the outputs from a value stream assessment means we can more easily configure a lean setup for our DevOps toolchain. And providing that in a single platform that targets our desired future state, meeting the needs of user and developer experience and customer outcomes. This in turn provides greater transparency needed for our inspections. In looking at this, I hope you see the importance in applying metrics. Part of understanding the current state is to have metrics of the current state. A value stream assessment allows you to map your processes, personas, tools, interactions, and measurements into one view. But unless you are measuring the current state, how can you know if you have improved when you apply the future state? Sometimes measurement of current states is not performed out of fear that it will be used to judge or pass condemnation. But this is a cultural failing and needs to be removed. Measurement of performance should not be used to condemn, but to identify opportunities to improve speed, quality, and reduce risk. So now that third element, the third point, the DevSecOps platform itself. Now just imagine the power of end-to-end visibility and insights that come only from a single platform, providing a holistic view. And think about how this can be useful to yourself. One of our customers, for example, was able to use our value stream dashboards to identify their best performing Java engineers and deploy them to the most critical projects. Another customer was able to measure the cost of creating a new capability, demonstrating to the company exactly what their team is capable of. As a manager or executive, you would get access to actionable insights from an application, team, project, line of business, and company level. You can use this data to help teams become more efficient, drive better experiences for users and developers, and ensure security and compliance needs are being met. Just think, with all of this data, think about how you would be able to make adjustments and see changes over time. Now, this is just the beginning. GitLab has recently introduced a beta of the new Value Streams dashboard, allowing you to see comparisons over time and between layers in your groups and projects. That capability to drill down, perform trend analysis, and review organizational performance, all towards the goal of continuous improvement, using objective flow metrics rather than subjective opinions. The measurements that you're seeing here on this screen grab are actual measurements from GitLab measuring itself. This is how we measure ourselves, and we look for those performance improvements and where we can apply them. This means that the metrics from your platform can then be used to tweak and enhance your value stream reference architecture, to quickly accommodate change to your business structure and how that impacts IT teams, and provide measured inputs of your current state to feed into value stream assessments and compare to future states as they become available. We're now getting into the realm of genuine continuous improvement. So we started by asking why you should inspect your value streams. Well, the answer is simply that doing so creates the visibility to identify how you deliver and what you deliver. We also asked, why is not inspecting our value streams such a bad thing for our business and ourselves? Well, because we believe that in a world where software defines the speed of innovation, you have to be great at developing, securing, and deploying software. Companies must be expert at all three, or they will be disrupted by those who are. And in our current economic climate, they need to undergo these digital transformations while also cutting costs, being more efficient, and doing more with less. And with that, I thank you very much. And I believe we're going to be open for any questions.
Yes, we indeed are. Thank you so much. We're going to start with a question right away from Klaus here in the chat. How expensive is it to set up and keep the measurement of one or multiple value streams? And for a small/medium project, where and when should they start?
Mm-hmm. So the first element, let's break that down, because there was actually a few questions in there. So the first one, how expensive is it? It doesn't have to be expensive, and this is the point. The Value Stream Management Consortium, the State of Value Stream Management report I mentioned, 2022, they identified in there that over 50% of organizations are currently spending a lot of time with DIY tools and with importing and exporting processes creating their own dashboards, and worst of all, collating the information into spreadsheets in order to show these metrics. Now that's expensive. Yes. That takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And also, how valuable are those metrics? Because by the time you've imported everything and shown what you want, they're potentially out of date. The way to go is with some kind of one platform approach. It's using a value stream management platform to provide that visibility. And it's something that has to provide that holistic approach and that ability to drill down. So it's useful according to whichever perspective you come from. So if you're an executive, you want to see that higher level view, but you should be able to drill down as well and see furthermore. There was a second part to that question.
Mm-hmm. The second part of it is, for a small/medium project, where and when should these start?
Now. Simple as that. Now.
Just like planting a tree. If you didn't do it 20 years ago, do it immediately.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the whole point of metrics and measurement. If you're going to wait to measure, what are you actually waiting for? What do you think is going to change in that time? The purpose of measurement is to measure now, and then measure again later, then measure again later, and then measure again later. And as I said, it's about identifying opportunities. It's identifying opportunities for continuous improvement.
Okay. So Anders had a question and said, can we please define what a value stream is?
What a value stream is?
It's a fair question.
Within the value stream, no, it's a very fair question. And I would obviously recommend reading, this is recommended or suggested reading Team Topologies by Matthew Skelton and Manuel Pais. But this is something that we've been doing some research on recently. We have our thoughts and we have our views. From my perspective, from my view, there are two principal types of value stream. In terms of stream-aligned teams. So we've got value streams that operate in all of the various team topology types. But within stream-aligned teams, there are two principal types of a stream-aligned team. There's a business service stream-aligned team, and then there's a technical service stream. Now, technical service stream is where your two pizza teams, 5 to 11 people, operate a CI/CD pipeline, and they're using the delivery platform. But many of those, and they'll be working on individual products or feature sets or microservices. But all of those products and microservices, they come together in order to form a business service. You will get multiple products which create a business service. But there's other layers around that. So a business service is not just about the technical delivery. It's about governance. It's about legal. It's about HR. It's about marketing. It's about sales. When you deliver a business service, you're not just delivering an IT function. You're delivering everything else that comes around with that. And there's something within the reference architecture that we talk about, which is called a fuzzy tail end. Just because you've delivered your software service does not mean your customer is getting value from that service straight away. There is time it takes to implement. And really, that is an area, a classic example of where measurement is required on your streams, where you need to inspect, because you really need to bring that fuzzy tail end down to zero. Mm-hmm. But that's the challenge.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the same as an operational value stream and a development value stream? Is it analogous? Because I'm often talking about the operational value stream. If you think in terms of water, it's the water flowing through the pipe. If you think in terms of selling beverages, then it's the beverages flowing through the truck and the money flowing through the invoices, that type of thing.
Yeah, they're very analogous. They're very analogous to each other, yes. Okay. But really, one of the key things, and this is something that we found, and this is why we're promoting the concept of a value stream reference architecture, is that the Value Stream Management Consortium have come up with this fantastic implementation roadmap. I mean, it's brilliant. It really is. There's just one problem. Everybody knows how to do the mapping and the assessments, and everybody knows how to do the connection, and hopefully after this talk, you know how to do the inspection and adaptation. But how do you identify a value stream? And how do you then organize a value stream? And that's the bit that we're looking at the moment. So watch this space. Something will be happening soon.
Mm-hmm. There is one question now in the chat from Zillard. I have seen a transformation program with approximately 200 metrics, and they were called KPIs. Zillard says, ouch. Is there anything like too many metrics?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that is a classic example of in the poll where we heard about the 62% who, yes, they were measuring, but what was the purpose of them? You know, I've been there. There was an organization 20 years ago. I'm not going to name names, but they accumulated data and information from all of the departments across their organization and compiled it together into a 143-slide PowerPoint deck and then distributed it out. But when we looked at that deck and how it was being used, even though it went out to hundreds of people, actually only one person ever read it, and he only looked at it for 2 slides in the deck. So that was a lot of wasted effort going into the production of those metrics. Yes. It's very important, and this is why I stated at the beginning, it's very important to understand what your business outcomes are. What is the values that you are trying to derive? Because those will identify the metrics that are important for you. And those metrics could change, you know, in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. Your values or the way your business is operating may change. It is always going to change. And therefore, you change your perspective on the metrics that you're looking at. But don't measure everything just for the sake of measuring everything. Measure for the sake of identifying what your true problem areas are and where you want to improve.
And there was a question that I'll preempt the answer a little bit, and then I'll give Stephen if you want to comment, which is value add time versus not value add time. The very first time that I did a value stream map, I put a circle afterwards, and I zoomed in on a second slide and said the actual value creation is somewhere between checkout and check-in, and everything else is not. So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. Now then, should I use this little story that I once heard where, somebody was talking to me about DevOps tool chains and about, automation and so on. And they were convinced they were fine. They didn't need our help with anything within the tool because they were building it themselves. And 6 months later, I saw this person again, and they were so happy to tell me that they introduced an automated build process. And I asked, what is the actual improvement that you've got from it? And they said, okay, we've improved from 5 minutes build time through to 5 minutes automated. Great, fantastic, I said. So how many builds are you doing a day? 1. How many were you doing before? 1. So you've just introduced 4 hours and 55 minutes of waste into your process. It wasn't taking any actual advantage of that improvement in their value add time. So they were getting a value add time, but they'd increased their non-value add time. So that's an example, I think, along those lines.
All right. I'd like to thank you again, Stephen. I think it's really super cool that GitLab has this kind of technology built in now. I think this is going to make a wonderful difference in a lot of people's lives. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Stephen. Hi, we're from Effico, the proud organizer of the DevOps conference.
Our goal is to uncover cutting-edge talks, emerging ideas, and DevOps trends, providing a global forum for practitioners and decision-makers to learn and grow.
We would love to also explore how we can help you excel in DevOps together. Visit us at effico.com and enjoy the inspiring talks at the DevOps conference.